Hello, everybody. It's Jeff Boutwell, the Bob Ross of Mycelium. And we're making happy little trees. But I have something to discuss. It's kind of it's kind of a metaphysical matter. So if you don't like it, well, I'm sorry. But you can just shut the video off if you don't like it. But this is a serious matter that I see throughout the community. They believe in the stoned ape theory. So what I want to really connect with is the history of the stoned ape theory. All right. So I've listened to McKenna on a lot of things he says. And he talks about DMT, but, he kind of contradicts himself, in a lot of what he says, because he says later, the stoned ape theory, this is the stoned ape theory, this is how we evolve, okay? But, in a lot of the contradictory statements, he says that DMT is the divine. So if DMT is the divine, that means what? That means there is a God. And so he doesn't believe in a God, yet he will express that DMT is the channel or pathway to a God. Okay, so, and, that really doesn't, affect me, but here's the situation, all right? Here's the situation with me. Is because what I did was I was like thinking, well, if he's going to say it's a pathway to the divine, it's a pathway to God, then I was going to, kind of research this and kind of research what he meant. And I went into his past, and the very beginning was Mother Sabina. So his very first trip on mushrooms, and I want to remind people, very first trip, number one trip, he was told by El Wassam, yeah, you got to go down there and try this. El Wassam did the same thing, Mother Sabina. So we want to channel this, and we want to make this like Mother Sabina is not the, not the beginning of this, but it is the beginning of our culture as, the mushroom community. And people will probably hate me for this, and I think they probably already do. But it's okay. I don't mind being hated. Because I understand the divine pathway of what we're dealing with here. Okay, so, I want to take it all the way back to Mother Sabina. And I want to remind everybody that Mother Sabina was not a devout Catholic, because the Catholics would have thrown her out for her beliefs, for sure. But she was a devout religious person, and she believed in Jesus Christ. Okay? And I want to reiterate that she believed in Jesus Christ. And she believed that the mushroom was the divine spirit of Christ. And that everything that the mushroom would tell you under the influence of that mushroom would give you an understanding of what you were supposed to do, of how you were supposed to act, and what you were supposed to do with your life to correct all the things that have messed you up in the past. All the sins and all the pain, all the trauma, all these things in your past, and it tells you how to correct it. So she believed this, and she believed this upon the very symbol of God himself. And so El Wassam and McKenna went up there, and they had their first experience there with Mother Sabina. And so, after this first experience, you should understand the divinity of what you're dealing with when you deal with DMT, with the DMT that's in the mushrooms. And it's a very natural occurring compound. Because believe me, DMT, okay, when they extract DMT, basically it only lasts for maybe 20 to 45 minutes. And the reason being is because it is a very volatile substance, and it goes through the system pretty quick. But mushrooms actually slow that process of the volatility, because it basically hooks up with all of your compounds in your body, all of the chemistry in your body, and it basically turns all that stuff into, basically an 8 to 10 hour trip. And so you may not experience all the visuals and stuff, after about 3 to 4 hours, but you will experience the quality of being in a state where you're at peace, where you feel like nothing can hurt you, nothing can destroy your life, nothing can come against you. You have no fear, you have no anxiety. You feel as though all the weight of the world has been lifted off of you. And you feel like you're at peace with everything. Because, the turmoil of life, it turns me into a monster sometimes when people start, giving me reports of bad news, of violence and stuff like that. I get really upset, and I get that feeling of anxiety, and it's PTSD. To put it plainly, it's PTSD, and it's a neurological condition that you believe you're in danger, and when actually you're not. And see, this is part of my condition. It's either paranoia, schizophrenia, or dementia. I don't know which of the three, but they really come about, and it really gets scary at that moment, because when I go back and because I don't remember what I do, and then I go back and I see what I do, like on social media, because I basically conditioned myself that when I get in that condition, post on social media so I can go back and look and see what I did. So, and it's a damaging thing, I understand that, but it actually gives me some sort of data to see what I didn't remember doing. And, a lot of times that I'll say things, and you basically, I tell you, basically don't get offended, because I don't remember doing it. And it's not me, it's this demon of dementia, dementia. But anyways, that's beside the point. But that's, basically where I'm at, and I see these things, and, I get, and it's very volatile. It goes away, it comes and goes. But it's the same thing as DMT in the body. It's a very volatile substance. But the thing is that with mushrooms, it will stay with you. And you can basically have these memories, and they're not flashbacks, they're just memories of what you did on the trip, and they will just come back to you in sequences. So you'll see this thing, you go, wow, I remember that. I remember the divine that I saw, and I remember how beautiful it was. And it subjected me to, very peaceful functioning. And so, and that's the best I can say, is that, the neurogenesis is correct. Neurogenesis is correct, but God, the divine, gives you that. And so that's what I mean, he's talking about the stoned ape theory, after he experienced the divinity of what Mother Sabina gave him. Because, Mother Sabina prays over those mushrooms, right? She prayed over the mushrooms. She prayed over her understanding of the mushroom. And she prayed that God would bring forth the miracle of understanding to others. And so, you may not believe in this. And I'm not trying to, subject you to force believing. It's like, you have to believe this or you're going to hell. Because my understanding of all that is that nobody's going to hell. So you're going to go, and you're going to be confronted with God's judgment. But God has a righteous judgment, and God knows your heart. He knows what you've been through. He knows everything that's going on. And so he's not going to throw you in hell. because and quite frankly, King James was a weirdo because he took out all the mushrooms in the Bible, and I guarantee you there's mushrooms in the Bible because God made sure that he left in the mystery of what this substance is. And he left it in there in Isaiah 53. It says the chastisement of our peace was upon him. He was bruised for our iniquities, and by his stripes we are healed. All three of those on the mushroom. So tell me, is that a coincidence? Or just the stoned ape theory that, hey, we're going to, the stoned ape built this empire that's going to collapse soon. Yeah, I don't think so. Because, I believe that God has a plan for us in the universe and that everybody is going to be there. Because there is not one sacrifice that is made for just one person. It's made for everyone. And that sacrifice is made so that everyone can thrive. If you check it out when, in other religious compounds, like, you look at all the people from the Polynesian states, or if that's what you want to say, like, out in Hawaii, Easter Island, and places like that, they have sacrifices. They do sacrifices to the gods. And so, these sacrifices will help them live and help them, avoid, impending danger like bad crops, hurricanes, stuff like that. And they do this. It's over and over again. So you have to understand the history of sacrifice. So every time you eat a mushroom, it's a sacrifice. You're sacrificing yourself. To what? To the gods? To yourself? To the mushroom? I don't know. What are you sacrificing? Because whatever you sacrifice in that practice of eating the mushroom and experiencing DMT, then what are you sacrificing? Because if you're not sacrificing to yourself, then basically you're not dying to self. So you basically go on in the realm of the universe, and you basically say that there is no God, there is nothing, it's all stoned ape theory. We're just gonna this world is gonna collapse because stupid apes figured out how to build stuff. And that's my take on that. And I understand so many people have said, "Oh, well, that's how architecture was born by taking mushrooms," and I'm like, yeah, well, in a way it is, because you can see a lot of geometric shapes, especially if you close your eyes under the influence. You can see the geometric shapes in your eyelids, and you can make out these things, and you can know how one thing fits into another, how a shape can really make it, like what you see right here with the mycelium. You see the shape that it wants to make, so it makes a geometrical pattern every time. And I can, I take all these pictures and I see these geometrical patterns that they make, and I can do different shapes on the transfer wedge, and it will make a different shape. So it knows the geometrical patterns that it has to do. And that brings out the divinity in itself. Because God can show you how to build things one on another. So I'm not trying to knock the stoned ape theory. I'm just trying to say that there's contradictions in his trip of the stoned ape. And so many people will try to, dispute this, but don't worry, because God will take care of the rest. So whether or not you dispute this and say, oh, there is no God, God will take care of the rest. God will show you where God exists. So, and oftentimes you don't really know this, but when you look in the mirror, you're looking at God. Because if God's DNA is within us, and that DNA has DMT in it, then who are you? Who are you? You are a God. You have the DNA of God inside you. That means you are God, but you have a Father God. And so the Father God gives you the life that you want. And so many people will exhume themselves into that understanding that, oh, yeah, we evolved from a bunch of apes. Yeah, Darwin was right, man. Even the most deformed of us need to be taken out back and shot. And that's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous notion to think this way. Because it shows you that when I look at another person, I know the divine is in them, and I know that love exists because I love them. If they make me mad, they make me mad, but I still love them. And I want them to change, and I want them to be better, but I can't make them. I can get upset and I can get frustrated about it, but you know what? At the end of the day, they're going to have to be the ones that change. And I can't do anything about it. And that's the divinity. So the divinity is not hooking up with somebody's idealism. The divinity is love. And Mother Sabina loved McKenna enough, and Wassam and McKenna enough. She loved them enough to introduce them to the Spirit of God through DMT. And guess what? It changed their lives significantly. Now, they both went back to what they were doing, which is one was in the educational system and the other one was a banker. So they went back to doing what they were doing, so they really didn't change that significantly. But someday, people will begin to change that significantly. They will put away those things that are peripherals. They will say, you know what? Psilocybin made it better, but psilocybin can make it better for me alone, and make it better for my community, and so I can help people. I can love people. I can show people the divinity in my heart by loving them. And it has nothing to do with, let me tell you about the gospel of Jesus Christ. Because, that is just religious foolishness. You have to show the love of God through your heart. And I remind you, you have the DNA of God in you if you have DMT. And if you have DMT, you have the divine in you. And within your heart is the divine order to love as God loves. God never forces his beliefs on you. He never does. I've yet to have God come down out of heaven and say, you are a heathen sinner. I will destroy you because you don't do what I say. I've never had that. He's never done that. If I want to do something, I can do it. And you know why I can do it? Is because I have free will. And God knows this. So the change comes only when we understand what the change is asking us to do. So, we have to understand the Spirit in that regard. So therefore, I am going to shut this video down. It's about 20 minutes. So I am, just going to say this in retrospect and in the end, to close this out and to say this, that, I understand stoned ape sounds pretty cool because they could figure out, oh yeah, well, it's geometry, we can make things. But in reality, the divine gives you the answers. The divine tells you how to live your life, and the divine tells you how to love. And a lot of people hate. And I think hate is a wasted emotion. It's a wasted emotion. Even if you hate, your president, your current president, and stuff like that, it's a wasted emotion. You know, you're pissed off, but don't waste your emotions on hate. Keep your emotions on love and and the divine, and keep your emotions on happiness and productivity. I joke a lot and I make a lot of jokes, but one thing I do not joke about is my divine experiences, because I believe that is why DMT is inside of every living thing, because it plays a role in every living thing. So that's my take on it. So take it how you feel about it, or just tell me that I'm an idiot and, just unsubscribe me or unfollow me or something like that. But if you love me, then you'll understand that I'm not after your beliefs. I'm not after to tell you what you need to believe, because you're going to believe what you want. It's free will. Remember that, because you're a God. And God always has free will. So I'm going to close that out and say that I love you guys. I hope you enjoy this beautiful picture of mycelium. It is actually one of my favorites, platinum crown ape, and I love it. And it always just gives me justice when I look at it. So anyways, have a good day, and be cool. And remember, if you're a stoned ape, well, go smoke some weed and get stoned or